All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome. On behalf of Alzheimer's Coachella Valley, I want to thank Edwina Dirk for joining us this evening to help us understand better sundowning. So, without further ado, Edwina, you may take the floor.
Welcome, thank you. Welcome, everybody. And by popular demand, you guys have requested that I do something on sundowning. So it's my pleasure to do that with you tonight. Feel free to ask me any questions during the, you just raise your hand and we'll be glad to answer your questions. If you have any stories to tell of your experience, that would be so important to share with everybody. Okay, so tonight's topic is how to care clients with the sundowning. So sundowning is made hard for you to get real sleep. It's a restless kind of sleep and how you need to take care of yourself in order to take care of your loved ones. It's very difficult when the afternoon comes, they become restless, they're up and about, during the night they're roaming around. So hopefully this in-service will help us how to take care of that patient who has the sundowning. You can ask a friend or a relative to fill in for you at night so you can get a good night's sleep. Try to get daytime nap in and take breaks whenever you can during the day. Hire a home health aide care as a backup. Sometimes family hires them to stay with the client during the night versus being up yourself all night. So having a caregiver during the day, but have them during the night to help you. Okay. So when you are with someone who has Alzheimer's disease, you'll notice a big change in them, mostly in the afternoons. And doctors call it sundowning because it's during sundown time. So it's called sundowning syndrome. The term sundowning refers to a state of confusion occurring in the late afternoon and spanning into the night. So sundowning can cause a variety of behaviors, and especially such as confusion, anxiety, aggressiveness, okay, or ignoring directions. Sundowning can also lead to pacing or wandering. And a lot of times your sundowners will wander during the night. Sundowning isn't a disease, but it's a group of symptoms that occurs at a specific time of day and that affects people with dementia, such as the Alzheimer's dementia disease patient. The exact cause of behavior for sundowning is unknown. So up to 1 of 5 people who have Alzheimer's disease usually have sundowning. But it can also happen to older people who don't even have dementia. You know, that kind of day, it could be caused by, you know, fatigue, or lack of sleep, although you may or may not be able to stop it completely, but you can take steps to manage the challenging time from day to day. Okay, both sleep better and less tired during the day. So sundowning syndrome, you can see in this little slide how they kind of slow down and then become exhausted. Okay, so the closer the evening comes, the sundowning becomes more confused and more agitated. One of the things they suggest you do is you keep your lights on, so it would help. So causes. So some scientists think that the changes in the brain with someone who has dementia affects their inner body clock. It throws the clock system off, okay? So it's like the daylight savings time. Doesn't that throw us clock off a little bit? We either put the clocks up an hour behind. So that kind of a scenario will tell you how it is. There are signals. You're aware, you're awake, or sleep breaks down in people with Alzheimer's that could cause sundowning. One of them, they could be too tired. Okay, no matter what they did that day, they're too tired. They could be hungry. They could be depressed. They could be in pain. They could be bored. Okay, and having difficult sleeping. Now, for the caregivers here, or even families, have anybody that has sundowning that you are aware of? Yes, Mandy.
Black and white, is it?
Oh, Francis, go ahead.
saying it's not black and white. I mean, you know, he does some things during the night, he'll get up, you know, start walking around.
Yeah,
And sometimes he doesn't wake me.
yeah. So that's right, it isn't black and white. Andy,
We've noticed that
can
we
you
have,
take that just for us to hear you?
sorry, we've noticed that our, some of our clients, we have 12-hour shifts around the clock with, like a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Uh-huh.
We've noticed that their sundowning gets particularly bad around the shift change. And so we've tried to do different things like distract them from the fact that the person's getting ready to go home. So maybe have the person get ready to go home at 5 o'clock instead of, you know, 6:45 or
Right.
whatever. So that it kind of confuses that change, because even though they like who comes at night,
Yeah.
there's still a change that's happening and it's out of their control, and they're anxious, and then they know it's going to be nighttime, and so we tried to change the cues a little bit.
Oh, good for you. And you know, that's a good way of addressing that. Whatever's gonna work, you're gonna have to know your client. Okay, some people work better, something like Mandy just said, they figured it out, that changes shift, and so they make it a little later. And that's very important. And it depends what happened during the day that day. Like I said, they can get very fatigued, you know, they're hungry, they didn't eat well, they didn't sleep well the night before, so we may have that to deal with. So there's no current cure, unfortunately. However, current treatments can be made life better. Parts of the cell factories stop running well. So scientists are not sure what causes the cells to malfunction. Therefore, eventually the cell dies. So two abnormal structures called plaques and tangles are prime suspect in damaging and killing the nerve cells. Okay, so it either tangles the nerves, tangle, or there's plaque on the tangles, okay? And they feel that might be part of it. Plaque builds up between the nerve cell tangles from inside the dying cell. So most people develop some plaques and tangles as they age, but those who have Alzheimer's they tend to develop it far more. Okay, and it's just part of the disease process. While scientists aren't exactly sure what roles the plaque and tangles play in the disease, most believe that they block communication among nerve cells and disrupt the activities that cells need to survive. So to me, it's a little lack of oxygen, okay, and that also can make them tired. Well, the age is one of the factors. Likelihood of developing this disorder doubles every 5 years after 65. And then after 85, the risk is 50%. So this is a little bit of your risk factors, okay? Family history, evidence that maybe hereditary genes are involved. I know of a case of this woman who was in her 30s, and she was the wife of a minister. And she had very early stages of Alzheimer's, and her sister had previously died, and her mother. Now this woman was only in her 30s. She had teenage boys, okay? And so he was a minister, he had to go to church and do his ministry. So his mother actually was one who would come and stay with her. And she noticed, and he noticed as the day went, she got worse in the evening. And one morning he called me, he said, I can't get any sleep. She's up all night, she's getting worse. So he put her in an assisted living, okay, where she did function very well. The consistency of the day was from day to day. And with her dementia, unfortunately she forgot she had children and the duties of a mother. So she became a real Alzheimer's client patient at this facility. So, you know, and he said, you know, it came so quickly at the end. Okay, so even though it was genetic and she had it, she was functional prior to. But then as time went, she wasn't able to function anymore.
So she got Alzheimer's in her 30s?
Yeah, she did. And she died, actually she died at 32. So it was very sad.
What is the youngest anybody's ever had Alzheimer's?
Well, that's a good question. 30 is a young, and that's the youngest I've been familiar with that got it, 32. But the average age is about 60, 65. Very rare do you have 30, but in her case, because it was a genetic sort of thing, it was very hereditary. So she was about 30, and her sister died around that age, and then her mother was a little bit older. So it's unfortunate that all that happened in one family. So strong links between serious head injury and future risk of developing Alzheimer's. Also new 2011 link it now to type 2 diabetes, okay? Strong evidence linking of brain health to brain heart health. So there's a lot of aspects that now has been related to this risk factors. There are 10 warning signs, and I think this is very important, particularly with family members and caregivers. So memory loss is number 1. Difficulty performing familiar tasks. Now in the morning, they may be able to know to eat breakfast and to get dressed. By afternoon, they probably don't even know what dinner is and when you mean change and go to bed. Okay, so that's how it's one extreme to the other. Problems with language, forgetting simple words. Word finding is very, very common with your dementia patient. They can't get out what they want to say. Okay. Deterioration up to time and place. Time is a big factor with them. Sometimes place is. They don't think they're at their home, or they're at their home and they think you're invading their home. So you have to kind of balance that a little bit. Problems with abstract thinking, poor or decreased judgment, misplacing things, which is very common, changing in mood or behavior, changes in personality, and the very sad part is loss of initiative. Okay, so one of the things that someone brought up to me one day, and I thought it was a good point, you can misplace things. Everybody, we forget we lose our car keys, right? But the problem is the Alzheimer's patient may have the keys and don't know what they're for. That's the difference, okay? So that's something we have to really be kind of a little bit more attuned to.
Question, Ms. Edwina? Can you go back?
Yep.
So these warning signs, are you saying in general these warning signs, or these are occurring in the afternoon?
Most of these occur in the afternoon, okay? They deteriorate more. Not that they didn't have this already with the dementia, right?
You're saying you
But you're
notice
right,
them
you
more
brought
in
a
the
good
afternoon.
point up. As the day goes, it gets worse. Yeah. As the day goes, it gets worse. Good point. Thank you. Okay, so factors that may aggravate the late day confusion include fatigue. Okay, you may have just, the caregiver took him for a walk or her for a walk, they come back, they're tired, okay? Low lighting, okay? Now, once evening comes, we all like daylight saving time because it's lighter longer. But for the dementia patient, when we're turning the clocks back or forward, and it's 4:30 and it's pitch dark, you're gonna have your hands full, trust me. That lighting really does. Increased shadows. They see more shadows, they see things that aren't there. Disruption of body inner clock. Their clock has, we talked about sleep, it's 10 o'clock, they should be sleeping, they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Or they go to bed at 10 o'clock and they're up at 2, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Okay, so that inner clock has a big effect. Difficulties separating reality from dreams. That's very common, particularly in the late afternoon. They have problems thinking of one thing or dreaming of one thing with the reality. So they may think they saw somebody, maybe a family member or something, have some type of a hallucination or delusion, hear or smell things, where in fact they can't separate the reality and dreams. Okay.
What about television?
Television can be very confusing.
Yeah.
Noise. Noise is one of the problems with dementia patients. Never mind your sundowner. The television can add a lot of confusion. I'll tell you a case, and actually it was Jeffrey who was taking care of this. This woman worked for the Sun newspaper, Sunrise, and Desert Sun, thank you. And she only had to go in once a week to do her report. And she needed a caregiver to stay with her husband. So I was out there doing an assessment actually for her. And she said to me, I don't want any caregivers. The last caregiver I had, when I got home, my husband was going crazy. Had the TV blasting, never made him lunch, and he was so agitated it took me hours to calm him down. So I told her about one of my students, being a nurse instructor. So I sent my student over to see her, and she hired him. And she called me to say, oh my God, I went to work. When I came home, he didn't want the caregiver to leave. He made him lunch, he walked with him, and he read to him. That TV was never on. But he spent time with the client and kept him, you know, that companionship made a big difference. And she was ever so grateful for, and it was Jeffrey who was the person that went out there. He ended up being, he got worse, and he ended up going to an assisted living. And I was told by the family that Jeffrey on his own would go visit him until he died. You know, that's being a real good caregiver. And that made that woman realize how much better she was able to enjoy her husband and not be stressed out because the caregiver didn't know how to handle him. So yes, TV, noise, it can throw them in a very bad confusion state. And it's just because of the noise, they can't separate it. I don't know about you and I, sometimes the loud TV can make
He
me
likes a lot of television, so I can just play it lower.
Play it lower, put on soft music. And if he has a favorite, you know, some of these, like Jeffrey's dad, he likes the old time movies. Putting those on, they can relate to that. You gotta find out what it is that they like the most and how you can relate to them to get them through this tough time.
TV's so bad now because commercials, the volume is so loud on the commercials.
Yeah.
So you're hearing the movie, you raise the volume because you can't hear the speaker, and the commercial comes on and it's so loud.
Yeah, you're right. So you'd rather take whatever it is that they're seeing so that and not have the commercials in it. It'll make a big difference.
Yeah.
So when someone is Sundowning, they may be agitated, upset, or anxious, restless, irritable, confused, disoriented, demanding, suspicious. That paranoia, guys, don't rule that out. They'll know who you are in the morning, but come afternoon they may not. Okay. They also may yell, pace, hear things like we said earlier, hear things or see things that aren't there, or have mood swings. So if your loved one or if the patient you're taking care of starts showing these signs of sundowning, you really need to talk to the doctor. First of all, what ways, before we start medication, what ways can we do to make them comfortable? And we're going to get into that. Okay, so how to help someone who has sundowning? Look for patterns. Know for things that seem to trigger them, and then do your best to avoid those triggers. Now, we talked about triggers in the past about patients who have Alzheimer's. What triggers them? You know, maybe the caregiver that they have in the afternoon reminds them of somebody they didn't like. That could trigger them. That's simple. Okay? Or something in the house that reminds them of something that, and they are triggered by that, get agitated by that. Okay? There are many different things that can trigger them. So and the TV could be one as well. So keep all daily routines. Set regular times for waking up, meals, going to sleep. Try to schedule their appointments and outings and visits and back time an earlier part of the day. Try not to go to a 4 o'clock doctor's appointment. You're going to have your hands full, okay? But maybe 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning would work, okay? And then when they are likely to feel better. When they wake up in the morning, hopefully they had a good night's sleep or they got a few hours sleep, they're ready to go. And remember, we talked about routines for the dementia patient. They're up at a certain time, they eat a meal at a certain time, you dress them at a certain time. That's very important, that their routine is not disrupted. So to avoid the afternoon agitation, confusion, all those appointments and stuff should be done in the morning. Limit or avoid things that affect sleep. Caffeine, any stimulant. Okay, be very careful of the stimulants, all right? Don't let your loved one smoke or drink alcohol. Okay, smoking is not healthy. Drinking alcohol is another stimulant. Okay, some people say, oh, I give them a glass of wine every night in the evening. Okay, come 1 o'clock in the morning, they're up and ready to go. It becomes more of a stimulant. So you got to know what works and what doesn't work. Okay. Make sure they have sweets they make sure if they have sweets and caffeine, that they just do it in the morning, not the afternoon. You want to give them coffee and caffeine, early morning breakfast. From lunchtime on, watch what you give them for stimulants. Chocolate is another stimulant. Make a big lunch and keep the evening meal smaller and simple. And you know, that may work, but it also can work the opposite. Give them a light lunch, give them a heavier meal, they're full. They may sleep better. So, you know, you're going to have to know what works for that particular patient. Okay, how do we react? Well, first of all, guys, we have to stay calm. If we're agitated, they're going to make them more agitated. And that's what you got to avoid. You got to keep a calm, low-key atmosphere. Ask your loved one if they need something. They might want something. Remind them what time it is. Never argue with a dementia patient. Just agree with them. If you agree with them, everything is all well. Okay? And like I told, you know, the story I always maybe tell you guys periodically, if they want to go for a walk because they want to go see their mother, sure, let's go together. Just walk with them. Don't argue with them. Just walk with them. They're going to forget why they're walking anyways. So it's better to work with them versus against them. Reassure them. Tell them everything is okay. You need to always reassure them. If they need to get up and move around or pace, don't try to hold them down. Just say close to them and keep an eye on them. Let them walk around. It's okay. Sometimes, you know, pacing and walking is healthier for them. Okay, it releases some of their tension. Okay, keep them safe with night lights. Have them all over your house, not just in the bathroom, not in the bedroom, living room, kitchen, dining room. Certain time of day when it gets dark, those lights all go on. That really helps. Okay, with a couple of things: safety for one thing, and also to help with the sundowning. Also consider getting a baby monitor. A motion detector or door sensors. They can let you know if your loved one is walking around. Now, if you can't afford or have a caregiver during the night, those are the good things to have. Okay, and now with these new watches, and if they do a certain thing or go outside the house, it triggers it, and then you get alarmed and you get called. If they are wandering, once again, you've got to take care of yourself, as I mentioned earlier. Get someone, a neighbor, a friend. And you know, a lot of families have their grandchildren come over, and they stay during the night, so they can get a good night's sleep. So family members, children, you know, neighbors, somebody who you would like, that you can trust, have them come over, especially if you have to pay for them and you don't really have the means to pay for them.
I'm pointing to back one. For the night lights, I got off of Amazon. It was like about $10. They're little square night lights that are battery powered, but they're also motion activated.
Yes,
So you can stick them anywhere. If you don't have power, you don't have to worry about plugging in.
What
And
a
they're
great
great.
idea.
I do in the hallway and stuff like that. For my moms to get up.
No, they're battery operated.
No, battery operated. Yeah, they work great because again, they're motion sensors, so they'll come on when it detects motion. And again, you can put them anywhere where you don't need power. So
That's a
it's
good
nice.
idea, Russell.
And then, as far as like a monitor for my mom, also on Amazon, it was about $140. So it was like a wireless pad that I put on her bed, so she lays on it, and then when she gets up, it actually alerts me. I had an alarm in my room that'll ring me that I know that she's actually up. So it'll wake me up, and I'll go there because she was a fall risk. That was great because I knew as soon as she got up, most of the time I'm at her side by the time she's actually getting out of bed.
I was looking for something like that. I didn't try to get on.
I'll look it up. I don't remember the exact name, but I'll
A
look
bed
it up.
monitor, I would think.
Something like that, wireless bed monitor,
Yeah.
but I'll look it up for what I had. But that was invaluable because most of the time I was up next to her by the time she was actually getting up. The only problem is that we had a cat. A couple of times the cat rolled over when she got up because it was warm and then it never alerted me. So I'm like, why did it alert me? Then I go in there, I see the cat right laying there. So
Well,
that's
that's a
the only
good
thing.
point.
But those two things really, really helped
I
me.
got alarms
It just
on
gave me a
each-
little more peace of mind.
I got an alarm from Amazon for like $20 and I have them on 3 doors. I used to keep it on the bedroom door, but it was waking me too much. So now I just have it on the other 3 doors.
Yeah, but that's what they're much more apt to get out of the house. Mandy?
Another thing that's really helped with some of our clients is putting a black doormat in front of the door.
A glass?
Black,
Take your cut, I can't hear you.
a black doormat.
Oh, okay, yeah, a black
black doormat in front of the door. Like, we had a client that liked to go into the garage at night, and so, you know, it wasn't really a problem that he'd get up, it was more that he'd sit in the hot garage and get dehydrated or overheated. So we put a black mat in front of the garage door, and he wouldn't cross that mat.
Oh, wow.
You see it as a hole.
Because
That's
it's
right.
a hole.
I have those in front of my doors beside me.
Yeah, it really, I mean, it really helped, because then he'd see that, he'd walk over, he'd sit on the couch, and then he'd decide he was tired and go back to bed,
Oh,
so.
great, and these are wonderful things. That's the whole purpose of interacting like this, to share some of these things. And actually, I never even thought of that. That's another one I could use for my clients. That's a great point. Thank you. Okay, tips for reducing sundowning. Well, try to maintain a predictable routine for bedtime. We already talked about that. Walking, meals, and activities. Plan for activities and exposure to light during the day to encourage nighttime sleeplessness. Limit daytime napping. Oh, you know, I know they're tired because they've been up all night, but you've got to keep them awake. If you allow them to daytime nap, they've got their sleep, they're going to be up and running during the night again. So you're going to have to find some kind of activity to avoid them from doing that, okay? Limit caffeine, we said, and sugar to morning hours. Keep a night light on, as you said. The sensor, I think that's a great idea. Reduce agitation that occurs when surroundings are dark or unfamiliar.
Especially with the sensors, if you have stairs, like my uncle, he's back in New York, we really don't have a lot of the second floor here, but on the stairs, he was going down, up and down stairs, so my cousin put them on the stairs, because again, you don't have that power, but at least light the way for him, so that's what we're on stairs.
Thank you. Good. See, that's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Or
So
a step, if you've got a step nearby, something like we go one step, it's enough to light it.
Okay, good. So in the evening, try to reduce background noise, TV, okay, stimulating activities, including TV viewing, which can sometimes be very upsetting to them. Okay, they think people are talking about them. Okay, that's how their paranoia and agitation comes from, not just the noise of the TV, but hearing people talk on the TV, and they think they're talking to them. Okay. Familiar gentle music in the evening, or relaxing sounds, okay, of nature, such as sounds of the waves. My husband got me, at night we have a clock, and I love to hear the noise of rain. And rain, we put the noise on and it helps us sleep. It's wonderful. It was a great idea. And then we have thunderstorms, you know, if I want a little bit more noise, but I kind of like the rain better. All right, so you talk to your loved one's doctor. If you suspect there's an underlying condition, now remember, once again, they could have urinary tract infections or something that will trigger some of this. So before we jump to giving them some type of a psychotropic drug, we have to rule out any medical concerns, okay? So, such as urinary tract infections, sleep apnea, that might be worsening in the sundowning behavior, especially if sundowning develops quickly. Okay, so you have to watch for that. Well, I started in the beginning about taking care of yourself, and I'm going to continue with that. So sundowning can make it hard for you to get restful sleep. You need to take care of yourself in order to be there for your loved ones. Please, you need your sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, get someone to stay in during the night and give yourself a break. Ask a friend or a relative to fill in for you at night. Try to get a daytime nap yourself. Take breaks whenever you can during the day. But once again, you don't really want them to nap, but if you do let them break down, let it be late morning for an hour or so, then use that time to yourself. Hire home health day care services for backup. Other ways to take care of yourself is to exercise, eat healthy, spend time with your friends, and try to find time, even if it's not a lot, for your own hobbies and interests. For us women, we like to get our hair and nails done, you know, things like that. So that's really important, that we kind of do some of those nice things for ourselves. Now, you need to consider joining a caregiver support group, which you all have here at the ACV, Alzheimer's Coachella Valley. They provide for you guys support groups. They also give you a free lunch once a week. They have an exercise group, music, and now that they're expanding, there's going to be a lot of more wonderful things. And as Priscilla's told you earlier, some of the new programs that are coming back in the fall. So that helps your caregiver, and it definitely helps the client.
You know, I'm a caregiver for my husband, and I couldn't live with the help that I get now.
Yeah.
The groups that we go to, and my own support group. The groups with him, I couldn't do without.
You know, well, that's wonderful to hear. And that's the whole idea of the Alzheimer's Coachella Valley. They are focusing everything, all their fundraising money goes towards them, nowhere else. So they provide, and they get people to donate, to give you a nice hot meal once a week from, you know, from Billy Reed's to Sherman's to, you know, a pizza place. Those are good things that gives you a little break.
And you know what else? It's your family. It becomes your family and your friends because other people don't understand what's going on. Like his cousins don't even call now because, you know, you can't talk to them and they don't know what to say. I send them things, you know, why don't you call and ask them this, and I give them a list of questions. But it's too hard for them.
And you know, Francis, you brought up a very good point. Associations like this and support groups, they do become your family. They're the ones that you can count on. And I know that they also offer, if you can't afford some caregiver to give you some respite care, they offer that program. You know, and you're right, it's very family oriented. And I feel very privileged tonight to offer this program to you, and thank you for inviting me. And I hope what we went through tonight, and you all really gave a lot of great ideas, even I learned a few things tonight, what we can do for our patients who have sundowning. Anybody else have any more questions or anything else they want to add?
I just want to add one thing. I'm talking too much. The one thing that
No,
I
you're
love
never
about you,
talking too much.
the one thing that I love about you is you were the first person that said if you have to place them, you don't just drop them off. And that's what everybody else tells me. You just leave them there and you don't come back for 2 or 3 weeks. And I could never do that.
You know, we're there to help you. We will set up respite care to have the right people with him, and you do what you need to do. Some people just need that time, and you come back more refreshed. No, it's our privilege to be part of that program to help you all. You know, it's a real honor to be part of this association. I like being on the board because it helps me to relate to the facility, the community, the caregivers, and also the clients. And we give them the best of the best care. And you people, you know, you really love them and care for them, and you come and learn about things. So thank you so very much. Okay, thank you.